Welcome back to What She Said Sports. Let me know that y'all can hear me. Okay, so we got a good one today. I would say it's unexpected, and it's not unexpected. It's different from what I was working on. Okay, so I was actually working on Jaden Daniels' comparison to Shedeur Sanders. Why? Because just like Jaden Daniels, Shedeur Sanders is QB1 ready, right? We know that. And what you can hear starting to while we're in a lull here while the guys are on vacation, Shedeur Sanders can start. Yes, we know that. Yes, Shedeur Sanders can start. But since he plays for the Cleveland Browns, should he? That's really the question. And we talked about how Cleveland is known for being a revolving door for quarterbacks, right? That's the polite term. Cleveland is destructive when it comes to quarterbacks' careers. And I did some research regarding the quarterbacks that started as rookies, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, Bo Nix comes to mind, etc., right? Drake May, and some of the others. And I'm thinking Shedeur Sanders could be right along with these guys. And the reason I was doing a comparison to Jaden Daniels was because how far Jaden Daniels went in his rookie season. And a lot of people see that in Shedeur Sanders. So where I ended up in my research is finding this guy right here on the screen. And his career actually proves several things. And it also provides context to the post you see below him by Coach Prime that went viral during the draft in 2025, which Shedeur was being drafted. Now, this post by Coach Prime was in 2018. This young man you see here, his name is Deshone Kizer. He was drafted in 2017 by the Cleveland Browns in the second round, pick 52. Now, understand that he was not drafted in the first round. First rounds of starters, right? Like Pat Mahomes was drafted number 10 in the first round, but he wasn't even a starter even in the first round. This young man was drafted in the second round. Pick 52, Jalen Hurts, for perspective, was pick 53. Jalen Hurts was not expected to be a starter. He got the role during injury. Not only did Cleveland make this young man, who they picked in the second round, which is a backup QB, they made him their franchise QB in the second round, pick 52. They made him the starter from week 1. This young man went 0 and 15. 0 and 15. They threw this young man to the Wolves. They let him play and lose 15 games straight. 0 and 15. That's 2017. So we coming back around to the draft in 2018 in the month of March, the same month that Haslam comes out and says, we took a big swing and miss with Deshone, blah, 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 blah. Therefore, that was the signal they were pivoting away from Shedeur as their franchise QB in the first round, pick 2. In the same month, years earlier, when Shedeur was about 16 years old, Coach Prime said in 2018 in March, right before the draft, the quote you see right here, I like what Cleveland is doing in the offseason. The offseason followed this young man's 0 and 15. So that's context for Coach Prime's post. They drafted this young man in the second round, which is generally backups. Not only threw him in at week 1 with no essential development, he needed to be developed. That's what second round QBs are. I even said it. You rarely see a second round QB handed the keys on week 1. They threw this man in week 1 and left him in 15 weeks, 0, losing week after week. You know what that does to a person? You know what that sounds like? public humiliation. He's a dual threat quarterback. Guess who his NFL QB comp is? Y'all gonna love this. Steve McNair. This young man could have been the next Steve McNair. But instead, they set him up to fail. They drafted their franchise QB from the round where you get your backups. This is the same draft Myles Garrett went in the first round to Cleveland. They prioritized Myles Garrett. They drafted their franchise QB out the second round where you get your backups. Threw him in at week 1 and left him to rot. 0-15. That is negligence, ladies and gentlemen. So can Shedeur start? Absolutely. But he plays for the Cleveland Browns. Shedeur not starting is probably getting ready to spare him some additional public humiliation at the hands of the Cleveland Browns. This was a travesty. They totally destroyed this young man's career. So when Coach Prime put this out and said, I love what Cleveland is doing in the offseason, this was after this young man was left to rot. No young quarterback should go to Cleveland. Now it makes sense that you have the context. That's why he said that. And there are people that want to say, that's why your son went to Cleveland. And it shows you the further intent to destroy. So maybe this should provide context as to why he's better off on the bench in Cleveland or playing sparingly. DTR had 3 starts. He was drafted in the 5th round. He had 3 starts. His career didn't go anywhere. They threw him to the Wolves and let him as a rookie play against Baltimore and lost. Then the second time they put in Deshaun Watson and won. They're setting these guys up to fail in Cleveland. This guy's case right here, by itself, knowing that Cleveland is a revolving door for quarterbacks, this guy right here alone should be headlined in the case to force Cleveland to sell its team. The negligence, the destruction to careers, to quarterbacks. And the more melanated, the worse it gets. And they were pursuing Shedeur as their franchise QB. No, they weren't. Instead of drafting him and setting him up to fail, they were doing it in the draft. Public humiliation, leaving a young second round QB that everybody knows need development, who are backups, handing him the reins at week 1 and leaving him to rot 0-15, losing week after week, putting that on his young shoulders, is intentional neglect and public humiliation. Why? Because he a dual threat quarterback, and that's the threat for some people. So he lasts 4 seasons. Enough for what? Retirement. There must be a waiver attached to the retirement benefits that say they can't sue. Or they don't sue because they know they have to go through arbitration. Which could be the reason why nobody turns around and sues. Because there is no way. This young man went to Central Catholic High School. He's right there from Toledo, Ohio. He's local, homegrown, meaning to Ohio. He's not from another state. Imagine all the people who knew him from his high school days. Then he went to Notre Dame. Imagine all the people who knew him from his career. The city putting him on their shoulders. And Cleveland put a noose around his neck and left him to hang with his feet dangling. 0-15, week after week after week, making a mockery. For 15 weeks straight. Yes, Shedeur can start, but he plays for Cleveland. And after you read all of this information, one of the takeaways that I have now, knowing what I know now, and there are people that knew this before I learned it today. If you knew any of this, any of it, whether it's Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, right there in Cleveland, hell, Deshaun Watson again, Deshone Kizer, DTR. When it got to the third round of the draft, Shedeur should have exited the draft voluntarily and went to Canada. There was no reason. Knowing this, there's absolutely no reason. What are we waiting for? To see what else they're going to do? And yeah, it's true. God kicked the door open so we stay. So you better keep him safe. And he already showed his awareness was being disrupted by everything going on around him. And his awareness is his strength. So you know he's been thrown to the wolves. I asked the question, if he's taken off the board, since he was taken off the board, how did Cleveland get it? Now you know why Cleveland got it. The how don't matter. Now you know why. And it's not because of what Coach Prime said. What Coach Prime said was in response to them throwing this young man that you see, Deshone Kizer, to the wolves. Another public lynching with mockery for 15 weeks. 0 and 15. It shows you their willingness to lose at the expense of public humiliation. It shows you that in the draft with Shedeur. Are y'all stupid? This young man has phenomenal DNA. Of course he does. But they were willing to overlook making billions. They were willing to overlook winning. To have a public lynching. To make a mockery of Shedeur Sanders in the draft like they already made a mockery of Deshone Kizer. They set him up to fail from the draft just like Shedeur. So that's why they weren't happy that they got him in Cleveland, because they thought they had discarded him after they passed him up and took Travis. They thought they were done with Shedeur. But then God said, not so fast. And the longer Shedeur is in Cleveland, Cleveland will be exposed. And this young man's story right here is enough to put together more stories showing that not that Cleveland is just a revolving door for quarterbacks or a place where quarterbacks go to die, but that Cleveland is intentionally negligent in setting up certain quarterbacks to fail starting in the draft, to make a public mockery of them, to publicly humiliate them, to intentionally devalue them, to set them up to fail. Cleveland's organization should be forced to sell and go to public ownership like the Green Bay Packers. There has to be accountability for this type of negligence and intentional emotional affliction on people. I started asking myself, Lord, I don't know how social workers do their jobs dealing with all the trauma that they see. Because after reading this guy's case, I got lightheaded. I was like, hold up, this is bad. This hurt me, and I read it. And they wonder why these guys who tend to make it in the league despite being treated this way. And no, we haven't seen it with Jada Daniels yet, but they're starting to ask the question, is the sophomore year going to be his year like CJ Stroud? They wonder why, even though they are not the majority of the quarterbacks, that they have risen to the majority of black starting quarterbacks, because this is what they have to endure as starters. This type of Deshone Kizer treatment, throwing to the wolves, but some survive. If they threw Shedeur to the wolves in week 1, he would be successful. Why? Because he was a first round pick. He's QB1 ready. They knew this guy was not QB1 ready. He was a second round pick, which means he needs development. But they also knew he was what? A Steve McNair comp. His future was bright. And like Vince Young, They destroyed him too. Anybody see a pattern here? Yes, Shedeur can start, but he plays for the Cleveland Browns. So no. Maybe we're gonna have to wait as they navigate his career like DTR from backup to backup to backup. Because that's what they're doing. They set this young man up to fail. He went to the Green Bay Packers. He had stats for 2 years. He was in the league for 4. What does that tell you? So instead of being a starter in the first round, he was a starter in the second. They hung him out to dry and listed him as a backup, and his career is just a footnote. That's what they want to do to Shedeur. He gonna be a backup in Cleveland. He gonna be a backup on his next team, and they gonna stick behind. He was a 5th-round draft pick, therefore he cannot be a starter. But they let this young man, as a 2nd-round pick, be a starter from week 1 and left him to rot for 15 weeks straight, 0-15. They mocked him. See, they did it to Shedeur in the draft. Maybe he should thank his lucky stars. The draft was only 3 days and not 15 weeks long. But he should have voluntarily exited the NFL draft after round 3. When they took Dylan Gabriel, that should have been it. They just left him to be mocked and humiliated. Something they seemingly do to a lot of black quarterbacks. One way, shape, one way or the other. And that's what we're talking about here. So Shedeur going to Cleveland is exposing Cleveland. So the joke's on Cleveland. The karma's on Cleveland. And now there needs to be an effort led for Cleveland to be forced to sell their team. Do I know what that looks like? No. But I know negligence when I see it, and I know a pattern of negligence when I see it. And I see what they're trying to do to Shedeur. I see what they already did to Shedeur in the draft. Cleveland had a hand in that. For y'all that think Haslam wanted Shedeur for his benefit, for the team's benefit, for the city's benefit, to win, for Shedeur's benefit, no. Because Haslam was the owner when this young man was drafted and left to rot and drafted from the 2nd round. I told you there's an agenda here. 17-32. And you saw the most extreme case with Shedeur being number 17 in the NFL draft. So he doesn't become the 17th starting black quarterback. This young man came in at a time where that wasn't the threat. But they clearly were threatened by something, whether it be the fast rising numbers of dual threat quarterbacks away from pocket passers. So they threw him to the wolves and destroyed his career, knowing he will be relegated to a backup, hit the 4-year mark, get those benefits, likely sign something that says if he wants to sue, he waives his rights or he needs an arbitrator. And you see how that worked with the collusion. NFL found guilty of collusion, but there's no damages. So that has been reduced to nothing more than an exercise, a futile exercise, if you're looking for justice in the NFL when it comes to labor relations. So we already talking about Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. People are starting to realize after reading that document that Deshaun Watson is not listed amongst any scandals, that he has been reimbursed $230 million, that he was likely sent to Cleveland to also rot because they knew if Deshaun Watson went anywhere after receiving a fully guaranteed contract and went to Cleveland and balled out, other people were going to want those contracts. So he likely also was set up to fail. I know in year 23, he rotated 7 games with 2 other quarterbacks, one being DTR, which was his rookie season. Instability was weaponized in 2023. So yes, Shedeur Sanders can start. He's QB1. He can probably take any NFL team that has a good O-line and good defense and a run game to as far as Jaden Daniels is. But the reality is he plays for a very dysfunctional Cleveland Browns. And they don't seem to mind the reputation. So for those people that tried to drag Coach Prime during the draft and pulled out this post from 2018 with no context, I just provided you context. Coach Prime posted this before the draft and after Deshone Kizer was left to rot 0-15 after being a second round pick. But he got the franchise QB tag for 1 year. They set him up to fail. They destroyed his career. Coach Prime was right, and they think they want to do it to his son too. Yes, Shedeur can start. But should he for the Cleveland Browns? Let me know your thoughts. Hey everybody, how y'all doing? If Shedeur was taken off the boards, then the other 31 owners were not aware of Shedeur, or they knew he was there. But at the same time, nobody was allowed to draft Shedeur. They knew Shedeur was going to end up somewhere, and Cleveland probably was going to be undrafted. Social workers often get burned out, right? Because I'm like, after reading this, I'm like, okay, no more quarterback previews right now because I was not expecting this. I was looking at something totally different, and this guy popped up on my radar. And I know that that's not an accident, and I'm glad we talked about it because now when y'all are responding to other people in comments, you have been armed with information, not just about Coach Prime in this tweet. It provides context to what he posted. It came after this guy was hung out to dry, but it also establishes the pattern against black quarterbacks. It establishes a pattern against dual threat quarterbacks. It establishes a pattern against pocket passers that are all black. So it doesn't matter if you're a dual threat. See, they tried to say Shedeur was retro style pocket passer, which wasn't popular in the first round. So they wanted a dual threat, but they passed up on Miro too, and they had a dual threat who was a Steve McNair comp in 2017, and they destroyed him intentionally. They intentionally destroyed his career. So to say that Cleveland is a revolving door with no accountability is also negligent on the people who allowed this to repeatedly take place in Cleveland. And now they want to do it with Shedeur. So you can imagine the media cycle that this guy had to endure. Shedeur is good. The Commissioner Goodell has to go. Yes, this happened on his watch. He should be fired immediately. He should be fired immediately. Toledo is 45 minutes from Detroit. Okay, well, he's from Ohio. And the fact that this young man probably grew up watching the Browns, he went to high school, went to Notre Dame. People in the city probably knew him. He played high school ball. They go to championships. I think he might have went to one. The point is, this is a local kid that they hung out to dry. They hung out to dry. So yes, Shedeur Sanders can start. But since he plays for the Cleveland Browns, should he? Drop your answer in the comments. Knowing what you know, should Shedeur Sanders start for the Cleveland Browns? No. And he should have exited the draft after the third round because he was left to rot, just like this kid. So you don't know what the hell they're going to do in the season, but it's not going to be straighten up and fly right. That's what this guy's story is showing you. This not just happening to Shedeur. Shedeur's was the most extreme case in the draft. And I told you, they're going to get you one way or the other if you a black quarterback. Pre-draft, during the draft, or your career. This guy right here is an example of getting him in his career. We'll take care of it during the season. That's what this looks like. It sure is a lot of effort to stop these black quarterbacks. Why they keep drafting them? The NFL said what? NFL insider said what? The NFL did not want quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders now. This was before the combine. Why have him a part of your draft process? Because it exposes something else. Draft and destroy. That's what it draft and hold. hoarding talent. That's what it also shows. That's why there needs to be another league. Every day, more mistreatment of black quarterback is discovered. I wish he would go to Canada. I mean, he's probably going to end up anyway. Because what? I mean, are people expecting the NFL, who has been biased and cruel and negligent toward black quarterbacks going back 9 decades, to straighten up and fly right today? Shedeur could possibly be in Cleveland at God's behest so he can learn why this isn't for you. So before God opens that door to release him for his own safety, I need you to know why. So you don't look back and feel like you missed anything. So you know exactly the truth that clearly you didn't know. So you know why this is not for you. Even though this is probably what you wanted your whole life, but you didn't know this. And sometimes that's what it is. Being the door being kicked open is so it doesn't destroy you, that you were rejected without knowing why you're being protected. So being in Cleveland is actually a form of protection at the fourth string and off the depth chart, because they can't elevate him based on their policies and practices to QB1 so he could be hung out to dry like this young man. But he could be there enough to see, okay, this ain't what I thought. Right. I'm going to get hurt. Right. I'm going to hurt myself trying to deal with this toxic environment. Right. And it's not for him to make the decision to get up and walk up and leave. But when God opens that door, let's say they cut him. What Mary J. Blige say? I'm not going to cry. I'm going to be happy, just like I was happy when I learned Malik Willis escaped Tennessee for Green Bay and he got a chance to ball out. I'm not going to cry because I know DTR had an opportunity to finally escape after the 23 and 24 seasons. Finally escape. And yeah, he relegated to a backup, but at least it's in Philadelphia. But it's still messing up his career. They want to do the same thing to Shedeur. So he did not exit the draft. But if God opened that door, we good. And that's the message. You need to understand how dysfunctional the Cleveland Browns are. And you need to also understand that there's no accountability. They're not being held accountable for the destruction of careers. Calling it a revolving door is being polite. What they did to this young man does not qualify as a revolving door. It qualifies as workplace negligence. Yet there's no accountability. And you now know that the process is an arbitrator, and that doesn't work either because there's no damages. So that means it's up to the fans. I keep asking, are y'all ready to boycott? The last poll I did, are y'all ready to boycott the Cleveland Browns? Not yet. Okay. Okay. I'll check back later. I fear the O-line's inability to protect, even if they could. Yeah, they probably can and choose not to. They said no, but only way I see Shedeur starting is if the O-line, wide receivers, and etc. come together and protect against our odds. You ain't gonna see that. The wide receivers might. I don't doubt that at all. But they set him up to fail because what they tend to do, they have been weaponizing the rounds in the draft. If you're a fifth round QB, you can't pick your jersey number. You don't get the perks as the first round QBs. And then let's be honest about Cam. I just read two things. So the NFL itself on its own site has a list of rookie quarterbacks still under their rookie contracts, and they rank them all with the top to the bottom, 10 to 1, right? And number 10 is what's his name? Drake May. Number 10 is Drake May. No, JJ McCarthy. Now, here's what's funny about that, okay? Um, hold on, let's see if I can find it. Okay. Oh, here it is right here. Okay, it says ranking the NFL's top 15 quarterbacks on rookie contracts. Is Jaden Daniels or CJ Stroud at number one? Now listen to what it is that I'm saying, okay? I want you to listen and I'm gonna read something about two of these quarterbacks. So first, try to picture who I'm reading off. Number one, Jaden Daniels. So Jaden Daniels is the number one rookie QB. Two is CJ Stroud. Okay. Three, Brock Purdy. Four, Bryce Young. Five, Drake May. Okay, so that's the top five, right? 3-2. You know what we're talking about. Let's keep going. So then we got six, Caleb Williams. Seven, Bo Nix. Eight, Cam Ward. Cam Ward is already ranked top 15 rookie quarterbacks, and he hadn't played a snap. And what it says about Cam, Ward hasn't taken an NFL snap yet, but he played plenty of college football and showed off all the abilities that convinced the Titans to select him number one overall in April, right? But then it goes on to say it's a bit of a projection by placing him on the top 15 rookie QB list, but I'm confident Ward is built to take on the responsibilities of a starter early. Although, listen to this, although he has yet to be named Tennessee's QB1. Now, what did I just say? When you're a fifth round QB, you can't pick your own jersey. You technically can't compete for the QB1 position. You're not even in contention for a position. You're labeled a developmental QB, so you need to hang back. You're not going to start. You're not going to even be a backup. You third or fourth on the depth chart. That's the fifth string. First string QB1s, they start. The first overall QB and Caleb Williams in 2024 started, right? CJ Stroud went first round, started, right? Jaden Daniels first round, started. The exception was Michael Penix Jr., who was supposed to start in Atlanta but got tripped up because Kirk Cousins. But then at the end of the season, after Cousins bombed out, Michael Penix Jr. rightfully was named a starter. So you see now they ranked Cam. But you see the note, although he hasn't been named the starter. See, that's what switching up looks like. QB1's first round don't compete. Shedeur Sanders was supposed to start. Right? So now people are saying, how can you take Shedeur Sanders, who was a first round QB, first year starter, and make him a fifth round QB? That's different. And then what? Taking the first overall pick like Cam, like Michael Vick. Michael Vick started, didn't he? And making him compete with the guy that failed last year. Now, listen to that, all right? So Cam is projected to be good, but he hasn't been named QB1. He got to compete with the guy that failed. They got Cam ranked higher than Michael Penix Jr., and Cam hasn't taken one snap. That tell you why Michael Penix Jr. got trashed first year in Atlanta. Then there's number 10, J.J. McCarthy. So if we ranking Cam, Shedeur should be right here, number 10. Listen to this. Listen to this. McCarthy essentially redshirted in 2024. This is his second year. I don't know why he on here, but because he got a rookie contract. But he's not a rookie no more. He a vet. McCarthy essentially redshirted in 2024 after having a season-ending knee injury in the Vikings preseason opener. So he didn't even play his first season, his first regular season. So he don't have no film. If he didn't play all of 2024 regular season, he has no film. So listen to this. It said, with no other NFL game tape to evaluate, I'm effectively operating with a blindfold when judging the former Michigan star. That didn't deter Minnesota from handing him the keys to the operation heading into 2025. Okay, so you heard that, right? So JJ McCarthy has absolutely no film. He was in the league already, didn't play one regular season snap. They want to hand him the keys. Cam Ward has to compete with the guy that failed. He the number one overall pick. You see how that worked? So you not only are you seeing a pattern of cruelty toward black NFL quarterbacks and them being held back, and destroyed, like with Deshone Kizer and Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. But with the other quarterbacks, Cam Ward has to compete with the guy that failed and he was number one overall. He should definitely be a lock. Just like Caleb Williams was a start, but they switch it up in 2025 because the NFL does not want quarterbacks, plural, including Cam, like Shedeur Sanders now in 2025. Why now? Y'all know why. Drop it in the chat. So they don't want Cam to start. So I'm going to tell you what happened. Y'all know Cam basically cussed them folks out and was like, get up off me with his comment. Yeah, I love coming out here and showing them they can't F with me. Well, guess what? It seemingly worked. Or either the NFL hears everybody saying what we've been saying. People are starting to realize, uh-oh, we made it out the draft with Cam at 16. But, we held off Shedeur and Milroe. But now they picking up on the game that we're playing as the season is being prepared for. People picked up on, why the hell is Cam competing with the guy that failed? Why the hell y'all don't even talk about Cam? You didn't talk about him in the draft. He the number one pick, but you just want to drag Shedeur, just like in the draft. So after Cam came out and said that, guess what the NFL has said? Cam is a natural leader. So now you're hearing good things about Cam with footnotes that say, but he has not been named the starter. So you're getting lip service. They're going to start talking about Cam, holding him up, maintaining that he has to compete for the starting job. Why? 17-32. It's not enough to play keep away with QB1 with Shedeur. Because if somebody else get hurt and it's a black QB2, then they get to be 17. So I got to hold off Cam and I got to bury Milroe. So they got to play a juggling act during the season. And Russell Wilson plays right into that. Because Russell Wilson technically should be the starter in New York. And y'all know what it means. Historically, you know what it means for New York. But he also could be the tipping point to tip the majority of the QB1s and the starters at him being number 17 to black quarterbacks. And that would be poetic justice after the way they have been cruel towards Russell Wilson. This podcast is the only one that's discussing the NFL in Cleveland that I have found in a boycott. Because ain't nobody else going to say that. It said the NFL needs congressional hearings about this collusion situation. Right. NFL oversight. That I said it. Who was on here when I said they need oversight? They need congressional oversight, but we know why they're not going to get it. Timing. More white QBs will be available. Yep. So basically the black QBs are placeholders. Right. Right. So they trying to make Shedeur, put him in the back. They trying to take they playing keep away with QB1 with Milroe, Shedeur, and Cam. The same three quarterbacks and Russell Wilson. And see, you know why? Because the more variables, see, there's not as many variables to control in the draft. I only have to control really the first round. Why? Because inherent first round QBs are starters. So if I can't control that because it's too many, I have to change the rules. So here's what's happening. The rules have changed. Cam have to compete with the guy that failed. You already saw Shedeur get pushed down, and you saw Miro get buried. That's the draft. Now we moving on to the season. I have to do the same thing. If I don't talk about Cam at all and I'm holding it back, people start to notice. So now I'm gonna start talking him up, but I'm going to add every single time he has to compete for QB1. And if I don't get no pushback, when I go into 2026 season and I draft Lenore Sellers in the first round, fine. I'm gonna pay you 48 or $50 million, but you're gonna compete with the guy that failed last year. See, that's not how that works. If they were white, it wouldn't be the case. You just heard me say that JJ McCarthy has no regular season NFL film, and you heard me read they are happy to turn the keys over to him week 1 of this season with no proof. But Cam has to compete. Why JJ McCarthy don't have to compete? In fact, JJ McCarthy there were 3 quarterbacks in Minnesota when free agency started. They split up 3 quarterbacks that were white and spread them out, and they are stacking black quarterbacks together. Not only is that collusion, it's also negligence to destroy and set people up from the draft and destroy their careers, like Shedeur Sanders, DTR, Deshone, and they all play for Cleveland, including Deshaun Watson, who they scapegoating. If you can find 22 sexual misconduct allegations in 3 freaking months after a quarterback asked for a trade, they were all doing it because you knew exactly who was doing it. So you asked for the names of these girls and you called them up and you say, "Did you work with Deshaun Watson too?" And they like, "Yeah." And they saw a fast payday and they got it. But what the NFL doesn't talk about is how they reimburse Deshaun Watson every single dime. All the while the fans calling him this, that, and the other. But there's a few other people's names they should be calling what they calling Deshaun. And you see they let Justin Tucker sneak out the back door with the same behavior because it proved that Deshaun Watson wasn't the only one, and it explained how they can amass 22 civil lawsuits in 3 months for something that virtually nobody knew about. Bullshit. He asked for a trade and was retaliated against. So yes, Shedeur Sanders can start, but he plays for the Cleveland Browns. No, only if he got buy-in from every O-line member who has come to him and say, "Hey, buddy, we got you," and then we're gonna see him drifting out the pocket. That's when he drift out the pocket because he already been set up. And see, they want to use that against him. Oh no, we want you to stand right here. Don't drift out the pocket. They know what they doing. They know what they doing. I am unless Shedeur is playing. See, people say if Shedeur is playing, then we should boycott. Okay. He can get out of the contract, but it will take steps. Oh, yeah, he can get out of it. He has a case by himself. See, Shedeur is in a different situation than the other guys. See, the other guys are on the back end, right? So they just got to make it to 4 years, and the league allows them to make it 4 years because they probably know if I get these retirement benefits, I ain't gonna say nothing because then what? Right? But that's why this has been happening for so long. I don't know what they are taking in exchange for their testimony, but they need to stop. But see, they got Shedeur coming in. And he honestly, had he walked away in the third round, he could sue like that. But see, now he in the league for 4 years and he's an employee. So he would likely have to go through arbitration like Russ, Lamar, and Kyler Murray. See, that's what happens when you sign the contract. Now you got to go through arbitration. So he can't do it. It's up to the fans. And I think if fans were educated about starting with Cleveland, or they see one thing untoward to Shedeur, but I don't want him to get touched at all. But maybe that's what people willing to do. It's up to the fans. Just like Eric Jackson is not forced to use arbitration. other fans are not used to arbitration. So a class action lawsuit, a boycott against Cleveland, and the remedy, there are damages. Cleveland needs to be forced to sell the team. And during that exchange, the name of the team needs to go to the city. The city needs to own it. And then the public structure that the Green Bay Packers has is what needs to be done in Cleveland. And the owners need to be dismissed. Negligence. That's just the start. I didn't even know anything about this young man. Where does Pickett rank on that list? He is he a rookie? Because he ain't on it. I don't think he a rookie, but he ain't on it. I hope Shedeur can escape Cleveland, yeah, without injury. But they still gonna relegate him to a backup unless he ends up in a situation like Malik Willis. Malik Willis ended up going from Tennessee to Green Bay where Jordan Love was. Now I don't know how that happened, but see how they stacked them together? And then what happened? Jordan Love maybe must have got injured, and then Malik Willis gets to start. I don't know. But I want you to pay attention. They are stacking black quarterbacks on the same team so that when one black quarterback get hurt, another one is in the same position so there's not a game, right? Cam going to Tennessee was a gain for black quarterbacks because they didn't have a black quarterback. They had Will Levis, and they didn't want to let go of Will Levis. The fans are the reason that they even probably have another quarterback, whether it's Cam or not. But they took Cam because he's black. You see, they won't let him be QB1. You see, he got to compete. That's total dysfunction. They trying to preserve the majority of the starting quarterbacks for white quarterbacks. So they took J.J. McCarthy, again, who was injured. Sam Darnold played. Sam Darnold just left Minnesota and got $100 million in Seattle, which bumped Geno to Vegas that blocked who? Right. So I'm of the opinion of why did he have to go to Seattle? Because Geno Smith was there. And why didn't Seattle want to pay Geno Smith? They say they didn't want to let Geno Smith go, but they didn't want to pay him. But he gets paid in Vegas where he blocks Shedeur. Mind you, Minnesota clearly wants to start J.J. McCarthy, and they had Sam Darnold, who did good. But they desperate to start J.J. McCarthy, who has no regular season film in the NFL. Not one snap. So they move Sam Darnold, and they move Geno Smith because of it. And then it's J.J. McCarthy and Daniel Jones left. Remember Daniel Jones from New York? He ends up in Minnesota. Guess what they do with Daniel Jones? Why they didn't let Daniel Jones stay there and compete with J.J. McCarthy, who hasn't taken one snap? Wouldn't you want Daniel Jones to be right there just in case something happens with J.J. McCarthy? That's common sense, right? They take Daniel Jones out of Minnesota so he don't be a backup. And they send him to Indianapolis behind who? Anthony Richardson, who's black. And the whole time, the media is breathing down Anthony Richardson's neck. He should have stayed in school, doing everything they can to disparage him so that Daniel Jones can be QB1. Well, guess what happened? Guys said, oh, that's what you want to do? All right. Anthony Richardson is hurt. He got an injury. He might be out for the season. So guess who is QB1 in Indianapolis? And they need another quarterback. So people thought Shedeur was going there. I'm like, nope. They are not putting talented QB1 Shedeur Sanders behind failing Daniel Jones. Because you already know Shedeur going to emerge. So they say that's where Flacco is going. So Flacco is supposedly going back where he was last year, Indianapolis, with Daniel Jones. And then who's left in Cleveland? Deshone don't count. 3 quarterbacks. That's why you hear Kenny Pickett could start. Kenny Pickett is the starter. Some wide receiver for Cleveland said Kenny Pickett is the starter. And my question was, where the hell is Flacco at? The one that's sharing the locker with Jerry Jeudy. He must be on the way to Indianapolis. Or he want to go back home to his couch because he's sick of this circus. Flacco knows Shedeur is better than him. So that means Pickett is now QB1. Dylan would be QB2. And Shedeur would be QB3. Okay. So in the preseason, if Shedeur doesn't get cut at the last minute so he don't have time to go somewhere else, say behind JJ McCarthy, and they like, well, you don't know the playbook, so you safe at QB2, you can't start. That's what they would do. At the last minute, they could cut him, and he don't have time to learn another system. So that's how you keep him on the bench for the year, and that's their best shot. But then that's also could be Shedeur's saving grace to get somewhere else, because Cleveland ain't it. Because even if Shedeur emerges to QB1, then you got to worry about his safety. So I don't know who the hell behind JJ McCarthy because they just spread everybody out. But down in New York, they stacking everybody up. Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields are on the same team. Let's see who they send to be QB2 in Minnesota. I hope Shedeur can escape Cleveland. Yep, me too. Me too, Miss Pamela. It said, yep, we probably one of the few talking about it. The rest of them ain't gonna talk about it. Cause see, a lot of people want something. I don't want shit from Cleveland. I don't even want Shedeur in Cleveland. Okay, because I'll say it what? You can't trust Cleveland with what? His safety, his security, and his career. The environment is toxic. They're intentionally holding back and disparaging the best quarterback on the roster, and everybody knows it. That means he's in a toxic environment. And we already saw when his awareness, he trying to keep his focus, dealing, probably trying to keep all of this. You know what happens to the mind with stress, and so do they. And now they want to use a speeding ticket against him. Okay. So one, you get to learn who your haters are. Two, you get to be kept safe away from the people that could get you injured on the field because you don't need to endure what you endured at Colorado. Just stay ready. Just stay ready. Because the unexpected, again, is around the corner. I said that the day before this 60-page document came out. And it's not about the ruling. It's about what's in the document and how the NFL conducts business. That's the takeaways. All of that would have been agreed to by the owners. As for selling the team, and that ain't happening. Not necessarily. You can bring legal action that can force a team to sell. Remember what happened with Donald Sterling? He didn't voluntarily sell his team. He got forced into it. And yeah, it came from the league. But Roger Goodell is already in trouble. So there's a way that you might not have thought about. Do not underestimate the unexpected. That's all I'm going to say. Do not underestimate the unexpected. There are several things happening that you know about. There are several things happening that you don't know about. Do not, in this situation where Shedeur is concerned, do not understand, do not underestimate the unexpected. And check this out. Stefanski is going to eat his words. God works in mysterious ways. Exactly. Exactly. And that's who brings the unexpected. God doesn't like ugly. And it isn't a respect of persons. Yep. He needs to remember that. Right. You can't say God works in mysterious ways and be happy to be upset that he does. That meant it was lip service. That meant you was just saying something. You was just telling him something. Because he might have reached out to Stefanski and was like, hey, coach, am I still going to go to y'all? God works in mysterious ways. To be honest with you, I think all of the communication that Shedeur Sanders has should be a part of discovery. Like I heard Eric Jackson say on Harry's podcast that he's reaching out to Colorado requesting dates and names of scouts that came up to scout the school during a particular time period. And I knew he requested discovery, right? And you don't know what's gonna happen with that. And at the same time, Every communication that Shedeur Sanders has had with anybody in the NFL, meaning through his devices, list of his meetings, etc. It should be documented in company information. So if he gets NFL discovery, it should be good. But see, as a fail safe, you need to get what Shedeur got too. They're all partners in crime, right? And what this 60-page ruling, what it exposed is they are not competitors. They are collaborators. They are colluders. And when it comes to opportunities and money for players, they are colluding. Stefanski is doing Shedeur dirty. That's what people think. That wide receiver just got there, and Pickett is probably the reason why they played together in Pittsburgh. Yep, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Pickett said Dylan Gabriel will stink it up, and Shedeur will be starting by week 7. When did he say? When did he say that? But they are talking about drafting Clemson QB. Who? Oh, Cleveland. I don't give a damn what they do. I know. I think we all are watching with bated breath. So she get the hell out of there. That's it. That's it. I already said it today. I'm like, I'm just waiting till he gets his next spot so I can give me a jersey. Shit. But they are talking about drafting Clemson QB. That's crazy. They are also looking at LSU's QB. Cleveland. Yeah, no, this is what Cleveland is saying, and this is a slap to the face to Shedeur. I want you to know. Actively, constantly putting out, getting a QB in 26 when he was their franchise QB in the first round in 2025 and they trashed him like they did. That's how you know Shedeur's amongst enemies and he's in a toxic environment. They're essentially walking around holding up pictures of other quarterbacks telling Shedeur, you ain't him. And if I'm saying that I'm going to get another quarterback in 2026, they're telling y'all that he ain't going to be there. And if he is, he going to be on the bench. That's the message with this quarterback talk for 2026. Shedeur ain't going to be our franchise. That's why he don't get first team reps. That's why he get less reps than anybody else. They are draft and hold, draft and destroy, draft and bench. That's what you're seeing. So when y'all ready to boycott, let me know. Let me know when you've seen enough. If you waiting for the NFL to straighten up and fly right after 99 decades of cruelty, 90 years, hold your breath. Hold your breath and call me when you turn blue in the face. I'm gonna keep asking that poll every now and then to see if the numbers go up. I'm gonna keep asking it. I'm gonna keep asking it. Because people are really waiting to see if something is going to change. I'm like, okay. I'm like, the only change I see is God gonna open that door. That's what he gonna do. And get Shedeur up out of there. Cleveland playing, they don't value him. God don't leave his people nowhere where they're not appreciated. Cleveland clearly does not value Shedeur. That's why you're hearing the talk about the 26th draft. They got to pick probably 11 people in the draft. All they talking about is the quarterback because they trying to rub it in Shedeur's face. Ain't no use to you getting excited and think you're going to come out here and win us over because we going to draft somebody else. You are not our franchise quarterback. We did not want you. We were forced to get you. And you're going to sit here on this damn bench until we going to release you. That's what's happening. That is what's happening. That's what's happening. Okay, so here we go. I'm looking for the post. Don't forget on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have what? Members only live stream. Okay, should NFL fans boycott the Cleveland Browns? 3 days ago. 23 votes. 52% say yes. Oh, they look like they're ready. Not yet. It's 39%. And no is 9%. Okay, we only got 23 votes. The last one has, let's go to the last one. The one before that. Let's see. The one before that. Let's see what it says. Okay, 6 days ago with 42 people. So maybe we got to give the other one 3 more days. Is it time to boycott the NFL following the league and owners' cruelty and devaluing of Shedeur Sanders in the NFL draft and now the Cleveland Browns? 71% say yes. Only 24% say not yet. and 5% say no. All right, it seems like people ready to boycott. That's what I'm seeing. That it looked like people ready. It looked like they ready to boycott. What y'all think about them apples? We need some people on the ground in Cleveland. Yeah, all that QB talk about next year is slapping in Shedeur face, telling him he ain't gonna be there. And if he is, he gonna be on the bench. It would break a lot of sports fans' hearts to know that the NFL is as competitive as the WWE. That's all it is. See, no, let me say this. Let me say this. The guys play hard. They are competitive. The Super Bowl is a quest for the players. The owners don't care nothing about it. The owners stack the deck so that certain teams can't win. I said it. I shared it. I said they were quick to dismantle the Philadelphia Eagles because they don't want them to get back. That's why they don't have what? Prime time slots. They don't have the most prime time slots. They're not even in a tie for the most prime time slots. They're like 6 on the list. No, the Bills are 6th. I think last year they were 10th. They don't have the most primetime slots. They won the Super Bowl. So and let's not look at who their quarterback is. And now their backup just left Cleveland, DTR. They don't want them to get back. So they're making it difficult. And not only are they making it difficult, they letting these teams and these GMs know you can get you a black quarterback if you want to, but you win the Super Bowl and I can tell he black and his mama black, it ain't happening. So they standing by who? Pat Mahomes. Guess who else is comparable to Pat Mahomes? Shedeur Sanders. So you could put Shedeur Sanders right in the middle of Pat Mahomes and Jaden Daniels. He definitely is somebody's franchise QB. But if no other team could draft him and he wasn't on the board and Cleveland ended up with him and they weren't happy about it and they're shopping for a 2026 QB, what does that tell you? They don't want Shedeur to be their guy. And they going to do everything they can to make sure he's not. And you saw what they're capable of in the draft. And when people show you what they're capable of, when that door open, walk through it. And leave them with their mouth hanging like Justin Fields did when he got the hell out of Pittsburgh because he knew what was going on and he found solace, in my opinion, with the Jets. Shedeur needs to have the same impact. Leave them with their mouth hanging. They know all of these guys want to play the game. They know all of these guys are blindsided by this foolishness. And these guys have the ability to adjust to the adversity, but it's not easy. And they shouldn't even have to endure this. While people like Will Levis, who have failed, are being given an opportunity against the guy that they need, who's better. And it's all about Melanie. Hey Gracie, how you doing? They have 2 first-round picks next year. Yep. Sharon Lawrence, it said there aren't any better teams. They all work together. Right. That's what the 60-page document is telling you. They working together. That is why nobody else drafted Shedeur. He was locked out of the first round. They took him off the board. Nobody else could get him. And Cleveland jumps up 2 spots in the same round to get him. Suddenly has a sense of urgency in the 5th round after 47 spoke out. Like it or not, that's what it was. That and the prank went viral on CNN and everywhere else. And we got a CYA. And because Cleveland is dysfunctional and known to destroy careers, especially black quarterbacks, like this guy right here, Deshone Kizer. Everything Cleveland gonna do to Shedeur, they already did. They rotate all their quarterbacks in 2023. They destroyed this guy and hung him out to drown, losing 15 games in one season, 0-15 record, and booted him out to Cleveland. To Green Bay, who then made him a backup, who then passed him off to the Raiders, who then passed him off to the Titans, and then he's out. That's how you destroy a career. Relegate to a backup, trade. Even if you in the first round, if they trade you, you're a backup. Hey Isaiah, how you doing? It said when the crowd chants and yells during the preseason, the Browns will fold because the public scrutiny and by embarrass Stefanski and the GM. All right, well that's what we're gonna be waiting on to see, I guess. Okay, all right. Shedeur will play. Okay, I don't doubt that he will play. DTR started 3 games. 3 games. Shedeur is better than that. We know exactly who Shedeur is, and if he played, are they gonna protect for him? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. Ina Davis, Shedeur Sanders' blessing could be in Canada. It could be. All hell is gonna break loose in Cleveland, messing with Shedeur Sanders. I believe that. It's time for the players to boycott. The players ain't gonna boycott. It's up to the fans. The players are not gonna boycott. If they do, that will be one hell of a shocker. They all when the game start and after they do the coin toss and it's time to take the field, they all should just stand there. But they not. So what they should do is this when they score. The fans are not gonna boycott. The players are not gonna sue. It is up to the fans. Let me know when you're ready. We need to pray for Shedeur. We do. And there's an entire group on Facebook, a Shedeur Sanders group. I joined it. They had a really good post. They pray for him every single day. Every single day. And if they see a QB they really like, they could move up by giving up the 2 number 1 picks. I don't give a damn what they do next year, to be honest. As long as Shedeur ain't there, wherever Shedeur ends up, there will be a huge following because I feel like he represents all black NFL who were mistreated. He will be like the MLK of the MFL. Yep, I could see it. I could see it. Rodney says, speaking of pranks, remember what they did to Laramie, showing him smoking out a bong while he was at the draft? It was very embarrassing. No, I don't know who is that. I don't even know who that is. Yeah, but yeah, it wasn't. It yeah, I could see it. I could see it. But yeah, that was a public humiliation stunt, just like leaving uh Deshone Kizer out to lose 15 games in a row as a second round developmental QB starting week 1 and making him the franchise QB. You know what that's like? Okay, so y'all want to do a threat quarterback. Okay, so y'all want me to have a black quarterback. Here, throw him out there begrudgingly. Doing something begrudgingly and setting a person up to fail. And you're callous with their life. You're callous with their career. You're negligent. And they haven't been held accountable. Because why? The fans haven't held the NFL accountable. That's what's needed. And on both of my polls, one about boycotting the NFL and the other one about boycott Cleveland, people say they're ready. So that's that, right? Laramie Tunsil, all pro left tackle who played for the Texans. Oh, okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. He's a left tackle. That's just par for the course. So does anybody know this guy? Was anybody paying attention to Cleveland and remember Deshone Kizer, the season 2017? Does anybody know about that? And we get ready to wrap up too. Browns veteran O-line can't be trusted to protect Shedeur. I know that. I saw who was at the golf tournament. They showed you for a reason. Yeah, the league is rogue. Rouge. Running rogue. Right, for real. Uh Goodell gotta go. And a few teams need to be sold, and you can guess which 4. I say 3, but really I'm gonna throw the Titans on in there too. Um, they probably the least likely because of the way they conduct business. They a little sneaky with it. They keep saying that Cam has to compete. All the while, they got JJ McCarthy. They handed over the keys to him without one snap in the regular season. And they even have Cam ranked at 8. No, I mean, higher. They have Cam ranked higher. Cam is ranked 8. Michael Penix Jr. is ranked 9. They tell you they don't like him. And JJ McCarthy is 10th, and he has not taken a regular season snap. But if Cam is on the list, guess who else should be on the list at number 10? Can anybody guess who should be number 10? If I'm using Cam's numbers from school, who numbers should be number 10 at minimum? Shedeur Sanders. So I'm using JJ McCarthy to block. Remember when Shedeur Sanders went to the combine, he had 3 hats. He had 3 hats on his backpack. The Browns, who pre-draft extensively with Shedeur, earliest that we know of, starting with the Shrine Bowl. The Minnesota Vikings, where JJ McCarthy is, where Aaron Rodgers wanted to go, but Minnesota was like, I'm good. Where they split up all them quarterbacks, and I don't know who the hell is truly behind JJ McCarthy, and I know they probably don't want it to be Shedeur. And the Saints. Minnesota and the Saints interviewing Shedeur was futile. That was just something to do. And now they saying Tyler Shaw could start as a second round QB in New Orleans. And what did the players say? They wanted Jameis Winston. More propping up. So Tyler Shaw is second round, but he could start. Cam Ward, first overall, has to compete. 17 to 32. Yep, Shedeur. Yep, get the lights up. Okay, so it's 54 of us. We get ready to get out of here. This was excellent. This was excellent. We'll be back tonight, somewhere around the 9:30 time frame. I'll schedule it. It's summer, so we doing our summer schedule. But I make sure to schedule it so y'all can know what time to expect. That we're gonna go live. Have no idea what the hell we're gonna talk about tonight because I was getting ready to talk about Jada Daniels and Shedeur. And then this fella popped up. So that meant I was supposed to give this my attention. And if y'all have any thoughts of what a boycott should look like, drop it in the chat. So thank y'all so much for today. And we can keep this conversation going in the overall chat. If you have any thoughts about what a boycott should look like in Cleveland, drop it in the chat. We could start the conversation there and take it offline later on. Okay, so I think this is excellent. Thanks for watching What She Said Sports. The midday huddle will be back tonight. I'll schedule it. Make sure your notifications are on. Thank you to everyone for your support. Thank you to new subs. Thank you to the members. Thank you to new members. Thank you for the media team. Thank you for everybody for holding it down. Thank y'all so much. See y'all later. Let's continue the conversation in the chat. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Be sure to join our daily live stream and listen up to What She Said Sports on the go on Spotify. Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Stay for another video.